Hospitality Meets is brought to you by RotaCloud, the simple workforce management software for hospitality teams. RotaCloud lets you create and share rotas, record attendance, and manage your team's annual leave, all in less time than it takes to make a brew. It can also make life easier for your staff, allowing them to check their rotas, request holiday, and even pick up extra shifts, all through the RotaCloud mobile app. Start your 30-day free trial today by visiting rotacloud.com/Phil and find out how much easier managing your team can be. Welcome to Hospitality Meets with me, Phil Street, where each week we take a light-hearted look into the stories and individuals that make up the wonderful world of hospitality. Today's guest is Rizwan Khan, General Manager of Junsei in London and 2024 Gold Service Scholarship finalist. Coming up on today's show, Rizwan reveals he's well rested.
I've slept enough for the last 8 months.
Phil prepares himself for the chat. Am I ready for this? I don't know if I am. And Rizwan tells us one of the wonderful things that hospitality can give you.
Me doing things that I wouldn't have imagined me doing years before.
All that and so much more as we chat through Rizwan's superb journey so far. Rizwan has had a meteoric rise to being a GM of the wonderful Junsei, and he has some great stories and lessons throughout. So please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give us a like and a share wherever you can. Enjoy! And a huge Hospitality Meets welcome to Rizwan Khan.
Hi Phil, how are you doing today?
I'm alright, how are you doing?
Yeah, amazing as always, can't complain.
Good. Well, that's a good positive start to the show. I like that. I mean, and actually, you know, here we are sitting in the middle of February. The sun is shining. I love crisp winter's day like this, and yeah, a lot to be hopeful for.
Indeed. Life is amazing and life is beautiful. We just keep going.
Totally. Actually, do you know what? I made a note of a comment that you put in the form that you very kindly filled out, which I thought absolutely merits regaling into the big wide world, which is that life isn't something that can be defined or explained. I was like, I love that. That's very philosophical, which is right up my alley in the first place. But it's true. When you try to make sense of it, that's when you get bogged down, right? But if you just kind of go with the flow of what's coming your way and accept that some of it's going to be up, some of it's going to be down, then it's just a freer place to be.
As I've said, it cannot be explained. You can't waste time understanding it. By the time you sit down to understand it, I think you're out of time. So I think every single moment you need to appreciate what you have. If you see with the current situation of the world, if you have a roof under your head, you have food in your table, you have your arms and limbs moving, if you have the freedom of speech and liberty to do what you can, I think you're richer than 90% of the world. And I think we all have to be grateful for the opportunities we get.
Very good. Well, you can come again. This is a very positive way to start my my Wednesday. Great. Well, I'll just tell the world where you're at. What are you doing?
Well, I work at a restaurant called Junsei. I'm the general manager there. Been there since the opening. We've been almost 4 years now. We are a type of Japanese cuisine that specializes in yakitori or yakitoriya. Yakitori basically means grilled bird. Yaki means grill. Tori means bird. And we specialize in chicken. So we get our chicken from Suffolk and we break it down into 23 different parts and we make skewers out of almost everything. And we take the bone, we make a sauce out of it called atare, which is like the mother sauce of yakitori. Everything is done on the robata, which is a Japanese grill. Everything is very sustainable about the cuisine, and we are one of the first authentic yakitori in London because they haven't been quite a lot of yakitori in the past few years. So when we started, we were the first, and obviously now London is seeing few more yakitori scenes, which is great because there's more. I think there's more to Japanese cuisine than sushi and sashimi and omakases and izakaya. So this has been another diversity part of cuisine to the Japanese world.
Yeah, and you're talking my language when it comes to, I mean, anything Japanese from a food perspective is right up, once again, right up my alley. Yeah, and you've been there for quite a while now. I think a good few years.
Yeah, 4 years to be honest. It's going to be four in May. It's my first venture as opening restaurant, opening GM. Yeah, time flies when you enjoy it, they say. Yeah, can't complain. Everything's been going pretty good. We have grown into an international side as well because we opened one in Jakarta last year, double the size what we do, and it's been pretty good.
Fun and games. Were you involved in the Jakarta opening as well?
Not to an extent because I was going through, how would I say, my wife was pregnant, so I was going through the bits and pieces because
Fatherhood. Going through fatherhood. Yes.
it's an amazing journey. But yeah, I think I was involved in training the staff because we had one of our assistants who went in to be the GM of Jakarta. But yeah, I did few interviews with a lot of people over Zoom calls. I was required to go there, but I kind of bailed out with the current situations. But yeah, planning to go back soon to see how the owners have set it up. But yeah, it looks pretty damn good to be honest.
Yeah,
Can't
yeah, yeah.
complain. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and you definitely played your part in it if you're doing those things. But in any case, we'll talk a little bit more about Junsei later. First of all, I want to take you back because looking at your background, it does look like you you didn't start in hospitality. You've kind of found hospitality. Is that a fair way to put it?
Yeah, you can put it like that. Well, my parents come from an hospitality background, so it's fair to say that hospitality runs in the blood. My mom was a telephone operator. My dad's a chef, so it's been I've been surrounded by amazing motivation. The love for the industry comes from the family. To be honest, I didn't want it to be part of hospitality when I started. After when I was doing my sixth form, I was very much into computer science. I wanted to do system analyst, and I wanted to design systems as a system architect. But due to current financial situations, I couldn't take part in universities. So one of my biggest mentors, Chef Vivek Singh, who's a good friend of my dad, convinced my dad saying, "Why don't you send the boy in to my restaurant, for a gap year?"
Right.
And which sounded as a backup plan became the primary source. It always starts like that. So I started as a receptionist in the beautiful Cinnamon Club, which is a modern Indian restaurant in the heart of Westminster, in the great two listed building, the old Westminster Library. So there was a lot of history in that building. It was an amazing journey because I started working the age transitioning from 17 to 18, and so as a young fiery boy, it was amazing to just work those long hours, see everything, how things were. Everything looked very positive, and I think it was amazing. I got into a trainee assistant program, which they have in Cinnamon Collection, which it's a 24 to 36 months program where you go through different parts of the restaurant industry and different sites as well, where you learn from reception to bar to sommelier to flow management to P&Ls. It goes through all the inside depths of how you can be a trainee, from trainee to an assistant manager. And yeah, so it was good 3 years in the Cinnamon Collection. I was quite good looked after by one of my group GM called Jean-Luc Jiquel, who I'm still in touch. He is like one of the mentors of my front of house, which I always look up to, and I always call him for advices. But yeah, I think then after I've got a beautiful opportunity by Chef Atul Kocha to be part of Kanishka, which was a restaurant in Mayfair, which I had the opportunity to be part of the opening team. I did a year and a half there as a GM, and at that time I was 21 years old. So as
Wow.
a 21-year-old, you becoming a general manager, it is quite a lot of things on your shoulders.
No doubt.
But
Yeah.
I think I can fairly say I was the youngest GM in Mayfair at that moment. But yeah, it was amazing. Quite grateful for Chef to put his trust on my shoulders to run 100 cover restaurant. We had two floors. We had an amazing team, and yeah, but there was ups and downs. Because you're young. It's quite hard to make your voice through when you're surrounded by people that have more experience than you. And it's not a negative thing because if you have more experience, it makes sense because you're young. You're still learning.
Yeah.
And then we all know something very brutal happened after 2020, which is called COVID.
Oh, really? What
So
was that? Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I don't
it
remember
was,
that.
I think it was
Yeah.
quite century back, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah, indeed.
but yeah, but it damaged our industry. But yeah, COVID happened. I decided to stay back. Was 8 months jobless. During that time, I wanted to go back to IT. I was like, hospitality is not for me.
Really? Is that right?
Yeah,
Right, right.
yeah, it's right because you're all demotivated with everything going around. You don't have a certain thought of your career. You don't know what's happening.
Well,
I was
indeed.
22 around 23 around that time, and I was like, maybe hospitality is not for me. Let me just go back to IT. So I did few courses. I did the CompTIA plus courses from computer science kind of situation, and during that time, I realized this is not for me. I want that physical touch of guest experience. I want to be involved in talking to people. I want to be on my feet. I want to. like wow people with my charisma. I want to learn more things, and food and beverage was something which was getting exciting as they passed by. And to see our industry thriving after COVID was a amazing motivational, graphic for me. So I was like, I've done IT, that's it. Now I can't, when I'm lying on my deathbed, I can't say, I should have done IT because I've, witnessed studying it. So I was like, let me just do this checklist and let me go back to where my heart belongs. So I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like, let's start COVID. And then I had the beautiful opportunity of getting Junsei. And years down the lane, I'm still at Junsei,
The rest is
loving
history.
hospitality. Yeah, and this is history. Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, but do you know what? The I think the great thing about that is that that period, that 2020 period, where I mean, I reckon 95% of the world's population in that moment was questioning their life choices, around the career path, just because nobody knew, right? There were so many question marks in the world at that time as to what the future was going to look like. Is hospitality broken forever because of
Mhm,
lockdowns, etc., etc. And so yeah, I think it had to be a pretty philosophical time of people's lives around. Okay, do I need to do I need to upskill myself in something else, which is what you chose to try. But sometimes you kind of have to go through these things to understand that the grass isn't necessarily greener on the other side, but it can then remind you about all of the things that you love, which perhaps in the busyness of life you can sometimes forget. And so I've heard a version of your story so many times, and not just on this podcast, but like just generally, and not even just within hospitality, around that moment whereby everybody's like, okay, I don't know if I've got a career future here, so I need to go off and protect myself and do something else. And but then realizing that that thing that they were doing all along was the thing that gave them joy.
indeed, and it's you have to see life as a second opportunity after COVID. Life does give you a lot of opportunity. We're just too busy to see it, and sometimes we miss it. And it's for me, I felt okay. This is round two, and
Yeah.
we need to rise from our ashes, and let's do it. And there's no stopping back now. Just keep moving forward.
And I love this as well, because this newfound love slash philosophy of yours post COVID also kind of, it seems like you were at this point just really switched on, like as in to the point whereby we'll come back to your time at Cinnamon, because I want to explore this fast rise of promotion, and being a GM at 21 I think is a really interesting thing to have that level of responsibility that early in your life. But actually, what I've seen in your journey, and actually, you and I were introduced to each other, one through the IOH podcast, but two at the Gold Service
Hmm.
Scholarship in 2024. Now, at that point, well, actually, before we get into that, maybe tell the world, what is the Gold Service Scholarship?
Thank you for asking this question. I think Gold Service Scholarship I don't think it is. It's one of the best competitions out there for the front of house professionals. Even if you're, I think, aged 21 and above, and trying to exceed in your field or want to push yourself out of your comfort zone, Gold Service Scholarship is the way doing it. The patron is the late Queen, and it's judged by some of the most recognized and most achieved front of house professionals. Leading from the trustees, from the chairman of judges. It's just like it's a beautiful competition that goes through all different parts of hospitality, segments. Like tests you on all your skills, and the amount of opportunities you get after becoming not only the winning finalist but still being part of it is just amazing. Like for me, I find to be part of the team goal, which is like uh, a, a part removed from the winning finalists and the scholars over the years. The amount of guidance and the amount of help you can get from Team Gold is enlightening, and the amount of opportunities I got after, like we went to trips to like your educational trips, like Porto, where we saw how port is made from Graham's, where we saw amazing hospitality from Anthony Symington, and to stay there in the Douro Valley for 2 days was just heart. It's just my heart gets filled up with seeing all this nature and this beautiful hospitality they provide.
Yeah.
And then we got a chance to go to Lausanne, to École des Hôteliers Lausanne, which is like one of the most reputational in the institute for hospitality in the world, and one of the most oldest as well. We had a diploma, which was a bespoke diploma on creating values in food and beverage. So again, we get to explore the city. We get to explore university again. You're back in the morning, just learning, studying, doing group works. But it's these are just one of the opportunities that you get. But the lifetime guidance, and you get your personality to shine through these competitions, is something which it's amazing. And Gold Service does that. Gold Service is just not a competition; it's an experience. You don't go there to be successful. You go there to network. You go there to learn. You go there to experience. You go there to meet people, because we all are from this beautiful world of hospitality, and it's somewhere seems like a small world. And if you're back in that small little area where you're conversing with others, you're speaking with judges, you're speaking with all the amazing people in our hospitality, you get to learn, and you learn new things every day. You can't say I know everything,
No, no.
and this is what Gold Service Scholarship is about. It's to move the young people in our industry, and they give their opportunity. If you have the determination, and if you can push yourself, then this is it. Gold Service Scholarship in a brief statement.
Yeah, and this is directly related to your philosophy of like COVID being life's second chance on the back of that. And was there a specific moment you can remember whereby you went, right, okay, COVID's gone, survived it, we're still here. I want to. I really, really just want to get my head down and push myself as far as I can go. Was there a light bulb moment at any point?
I think I went through a lot of moments like that, to be honest.
Yeah,
But there was one specific moment when I had just got Junsei. I looked into myself into the mirror. I had a massive beard. My hair was all over the place. And I looked myself into the mirror, and I'm like, there was just like a fire inside me burning. And I was like, I've slept enough for the last 8 months, so I can't complain. I'm tired.
slept enough for a
Um,
lifetime, probably.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I've rested enough for the last 8 months. This is the time for me not to regret or complain. And I just looked myself like I need to see this as a second opportunity. And that I think it's fair to say that is the time when I found myself in hospitality. And I was like, okay, it is what it is. Let's move on, and let's do all the things that I could have done in the last years that I missed. And now, if I can inspire others, if I can do it, I can inspire others. If I can represent myself, and if I can represent a pool of people that have gone through something similar to what I have gone, I think I can do that. I can be that light to enlighten others. I could be that torch to move that marathon forward. And I keep saying this to everyone. I've said this to you as well before. Like, the hospitality is a never-ending marathon, and our mentors have been running it, and they find the suitable people to pass the torch, and then we get the torch, and then we have to find the suitable people to pass the torch forward, so that hospitality just keeps, you know, just gets shared with everybody, and that's what the marathon is about. And I think that was the time when I realized this is it. Let's do all these things. Let's do all the crazy things. Push myself. Like, let's learn from ups and downs. If I fail, it is fine. I'll try again. What's the worst can you do? What's the
yeah.
worst will happen? You try again. That's it.
Love it, love it. Yeah. Do you know what? You kind of made me realize as well. There was once upon a time, there's a guy told me, he was a hotel GM. His philosophy was is that ultimately he is just a custodian of this thing that will long outlive him, and his job is to make sure that when he leaves there, it's just in a better position than how he found it. And
Hmm.
I've kind of just on that little section that you're talking about there. I've now realised that actually that is the same of the industry. We're all just custodians of something within the
Hmm.
industry, and the biggest thing that we're all custodians of is its reputation. So what we all kind of have to take this view that while I'm here and while I'm involved in this industry, I just want to make sure that when I leave it, I've done my bit to try and just make it a bit better. And it could be a tiny thing. It could be a massive grand thing. Doesn't matter. And with your journey, you've kind of you've had that look in the mirror moment where you've gone, right, one, I kind of probably owe this to myself to, you know, push myself and see where I can actually take this. But two, I feel like I owe it to hospitality as well to give the best of myself while I'm here.
Mhm.
And I love that. I love that. And that's kind of been really prevalent in your journey to me around the fact that you did the Gold Service Scholarship in 2021 and you got to the semi-final stage, which in itself is no mean feat for a lot of people. I think that would probably be, do you know what? I have achieved, and that's been great. But for
Mhm.
you, that wasn't enough. What was going through your head there in terms of, I've already done something quite good here. So what? But you felt like you had some unfinished business.
Yeah. For me, yes, I thought that I had some unfinished business, but it was just like the experience during that time was so amazing. You get to semifinal. To be honest, I didn't expect I'll pass the quarterfinals because you go. This was my first ever competition in any formats,
I mean,
and for me to be
you've
there,
gone straight to the top with your experience, right? Is it? We'll do this, and then all the other competitions will just be, way easier.
yeah, you could say that, but I think all the other competitions were quite different on its own.
Mm.
But yeah, I think becoming as a semi-finalist, you did few things where I thought I could have done better, and for me, I was like, okay, it's a good experience. I met a lot of people. I saw some amazing people move on to being the winning finalists of those years. And I was like, okay, this is great. To be honest, when I went in 2021, I still remember I was in the Langham for the quarterfinals and I didn't know a single soul. And for me, my heart was beating fast and I was like, where am I? Have I made a mistake? What is this? I don't have the confidence. But as the competition started, the judges, they make you feel so at ease. People around you make you feel at ease. I still remember meeting Sergio for the first time there, and the conversation I had with Sergio was amazing, and I look up to him after all these years as well. I always text Sergio and Natasha on with my life updates or what would be the best thing to do, and I think they are a great pioneer of our industry, and they have achieved so much.
No doubt.
And I think over these years, you really understand a massive sentence, which means if you don't ask, you don't get. It's always a no. And it's always good to ask because even if the answer is negative, you can make it positive in your mindset, right? But if you don't ask, you wouldn't know the different the verses, we call it the different multiverses, you wouldn't know. And I think it's better to ask and just come back more prepared. And I came back more prepared. I wanted to go back in 2022, but I had an accident where I broke my clavicle.
Oh,
So
I mean
so
that'll get in the way. Yeah.
yeah, it was like physically unfit, and I didn't want it to waste somebody's opportunity by just going there because I know I wouldn't perform well. So I took a drawback, and I came back in 2023, moving to 2024, and it was quite honored and quite grateful to become one of the winning finalists for the judges and trustees to see me that I've met the criteria and to be part of the winning finalists. For my personality to shine, I think it's quite a lovely moment in my
Yeah.
life. That's one of the highest point of my career, I would say. Like to be as a winning finalist out of all these amazing people that took part over the years, and then just not always you get to do a table of four service. Just one table for the finals, which is quite relaxed and but fun.
Yeah.
It's just the journey was very fun.
Five-star hospitality means having the right people in the right place at the right time, and that's exactly where RotaCloud can help. RotaCloud is the online platform that makes planning rotas, recording attendance, and managing annual leave easy. Its simple, drag-and-drop interface lets you create and share rotas with your team in minutes, while our built-in budgeting tools mean you'll know exactly how much you're spending on staffing before sending the rota out. RotaCloud also makes life easier for your staff, allowing them to check their rotas, request time off, and pick up extra shifts, all through the RotaCloud mobile app. Start your 30-day free trial today by visiting rotacloud.com/Phil and find out how much easier managing your team can be.
No doubt. And do you know what? The thing that I always remember from this, and actually we've had Natasha on the show, and we were talking about the Gold Service Scholarship in a bit of depth, but the joyous thing for me is I stood in that room in Claridge's as they were announcing in your year, the winner from the eight. You could almost get a sense of that none of the eight, obviously everybody wants to be the ultimate winner, but there
Mm.
was this bond between you all that was like you just wanted to see everybody else like do the best that they can do. And if somebody else beats you to that, the grand prize, then they're gonna bloody deserve it, right? Because you've all kind of put your heart and soul into this, and you can walk away going, yeah, getting to the final eight is an absolute achievement, and it's you still get to experience loads of amazing things, right? As you say, so it becomes less about the competition and more
Mhm.
about the bonds that you build and the experience that you have in general.
Yeah, indeed, it was. Like for me, winning was never an option. I just wanted to see myself in the top eight, and I think I got a bit relaxed after, and I was very happy for our current scholar, and he deserved it. He has an inspiring journey as well. So I think you always need somebody to represent the group, and nobody else could have done it better. So I think it was an amazing. Like you sit there, you want everybody to succeed, but that's the beauty of hospitality. We are so hospitality will like people to shine. There's no discrimination. There is no, how would I say, there's no unfair judgments in hospitality. It gives equal opportunities to everyone without experience or with experience. If you can thrive, you'll move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing for me though is that like you were not satisfied with just doing the gold service scholarship. You have done other competitions as well. So this philosophy, this newfound philosophy post COVID, whereby you're going to like push. I think that like you know, why does competition play a part in that new philosophy?
For me, it's about pushing yourself forward and trying yourself out of the comfort zone because I felt your body and your mind can do a lot of things that you cannot expect it to do if you are given under a pressurized scenario. And for me, competitions is something I enjoy doing, not because for the recognition I'll get later. It's nothing to do with that. It's about me doing things that I wouldn't have imagined me doing years before. So I think like my first ever success in competitions was the Annual Awards of Excellence by RACA, which is the Royal Academy of Culinary Arts. For me to have pushed myself, to the final, then to achieve it later, you don't always find yourself doing a service in a three Michelin establishment. And it was Alan Ducasse at the Dorchester where we got to carve a fish, we got to serve from starters to do the wine decanting to finish off with desserts. It was amazing to see, like, if you would have asked me that I'd be doing this kind of service a few years back, my answer would have been no. But the fact that I was able to see myself do this was something amazing. And this is what I like to see about myself. I like to push myself out of my comfort zone, because I believe, and I tell this to my team every day, and sometimes I get a lot of eyebrows raised when I say it. I do tell them every time that diamonds are made under pressure. So pressure can be taken positively and negatively, but it's all up to you. And you can't just sit there and complain, oh, I'm doing too much. For me, it's depending on what you've done. Yes, I can understand you're doing too much, but we need to appreciate them at that moment. Yeah, competitions for me was just this. Like I want to see myself doing things which I haven't done, and I want to inspire others. And I'm quite surprised sometimes when people do text me or send me emails or want to meet up with me to get in, not cheat code, but for me to share the experience how the competitions work. And when they say thank you for your guidance, is something which I feel quite proud of because I'm inspiring the others to do the same thing. And I think that's what hospitality needs right now. It needs a lot of engagement from the young generation for them to take it as the first career path. It's not your part-time job where you come in for a few months and then you move on to a different career path. I think that phase that you come in as a part-time job and that phase of months that you do, I think hospitality, if you really see it, it should be enough for you to make in, like, for you to fall in love with the field because this is the only field where it pays you to learn knowledge of food and beverage. You get to meet
Yeah.
people. Yeah, you get to see different cultures. You get to meet people from all around the world. You know, hospitality prepares you for life. Which I can be a bit biased when I say a 9 to 5 might not do it, but you get to see different side of it, right? You can see a very busy breakfast service where you lose all your energy in it, but somehow you gain them back before the lunch service starts. Or you can see yourself starting quite late and then you see that amazing rush at 9 p.m. in the evening, but a very filled dining room will make your heart lit up. So I think these are some amazing, moments of hospitality.
Yeah, and the point you raise around pushing yourself and kind of stretching that comfort zone is massively important. There's a saying out there, I don't know who has this. Everything that you ever want is on the other side of fear. And a lot of the time, and this is quite widely reported these days, rightly or wrongly. I'm not here to judge on anybody's individual situations, but a lot is made of work-life balance, and and that's massively important for general life balance, I would say, rather than specifically work-life balance. I would focus more just on life balance in that phrase. Is that a lot of the time it's like that was difficult, so I'm going to walk away from that. Whereas actually, if you push through the difficulty, the gold is on the other side. So the difficulty in your situation is entering into a competition whereby you feel perhaps like on day one, like you're a little bit like the rabbit in the headlights. What am I doing here? I don't know anyone. Am I out of my depth? Well, yes, you are, but that's great. That's what you want. You want a little bit of out of your depth, because otherwise this comfort zone just actually, it doesn't stay as it is, it contracts. And kind of COVID is also a prime example of that, in the sense that, as you quite rightly say, we all had more time to sleep, we all had more time to relax, chill, all of that kind of stuff. But that is dangerous, because you then look at yourself in the mirror 8 months later and your hair's all over the place and your beard is, I can recount getting far too comfortable with, having a pretty free schedule. It's a dangerous place to be. So I'm not suggesting for a second that everybody needs to spend every minute of their life pushing, 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 pushing. That's dangerous as well. But the comfort zone thing for me is what's the worst thing that happens if you stretch it? You push
Yeah.
yourself out of it. And I think hospitality is amazing at teaching us this skill in a way that sometimes you don't even know it's happening,
Mhm.
because something just happens on service. In fact, I think you've got a story about a scary moment that happened in within a service. So yeah, tell us the story actually, and we can kind of carry on the conversation.
I think it was the second year of Cinnamon Club, and I had just been promoted as reception manager. And it was quite a busy Saturday service, and we had guests all the way from Germany. And this was a beautiful couple celebrating their, I think, if I'm not wrong, I think they were celebrating their 22nd wedding anniversary.
Oh wow, right.
And they were seated in the reading room, which, we call it the reading room because it was Winston Churchill's study room in the Westminster Library. And quite ironically, we had done first aid training in the morning. We had people come in, teaching us. So I was very into first aid for some reason that day. But the way life works was amazing. And unfortunately, this lady started having a chest pain, and we were very busy at that time. This is we used to call it the third seating because we used to have a rush of people coming at 9 p.m., a rush of people leaving the dining room. So relays needs to be done, cloakroom needs to be looked after, bar needs to be checked in, we need to bring people from the bar, seat them to the dining room. You have an X amount of opportunities, an X amount of responsibilities at your desk, which is the reception. And I went to to the reading room to collect some menus back, and I could see this lady there. The head waiter during that time was stressing what needs to be done. At the moment, I had two receptionists already working under me, which I could, be okay. I can leave the ship with you. You can drive it forward while I, access this situation. So I went in, and she was holding her chest quite, and I think she was going for like a heart attack, cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
So without thinking, I took the desk with me, sat her down in our lobby without creating a scene, because the last thing you want is for her to be uncomfortable with people looking at her. We had a taxi service outside our restaurant, and I was like, let's go to the nearest hospital. And the nearest hospital was St. Thomas Hospital, which was 10 minutes away. I broke a lot of rules during that time because I didn't inform my GM and I didn't inform my line manager that I'm leaving the premises. But I just thought, let me just leave it. It is what I told my receptionist, manage the books. I'll be back in 20 minutes. So I left, took them to the hospital, got them in the A&E. And the gentleman there was like, can you please give me your name and, your phone number and address? So I just gave my name and I gave the restaurant's number. I said, I don't check my phone during service, but if there's something you require, just give us a call at the telephone line.
Yeah.
and they got escorted in. And from that time, I didn't really know what happened to them. If something got serious, or it was a minor pain, or I didn't want to extravagant it, but it was quite a scary moment. Just that the adrenaline of service leading to for you to solve this issue, and your first aid instincts coming in. I came back. My GM was very upset. Was very pissed off is the right term to use here. Uh, like, how can you leave your manager? You can't leave your station. You have. He was very right in all the points, because I didn't inform him. I just apologized, and I'm like, it is what it is. If you find like giving a disciplinary action, you can. I did something which nobody should do, but like I felt in that moment it was required. After service, he came to me and he was like, you did the right thing. I'm sorry if I was too much, but that's you need to understand. You can't be just leaving the restaurant like this. I'm like, no, I totally, totally understand your point. You're trying to discipline. You have rules, sets of rules and regulation in the restaurant, and I just barricaded it. And I think this was it. Like it was a very scary moment, and the fact that we didn't escalate it and we didn't speak about it after service. I didn't speak to my team about it, like bragging about myself. Like, oh, I've done this. This was something that it stayed with me. But the highlight point of the career was a few weeks after. I was working Sunday because I used to love working Sundays, and I still do love working Sundays, because I find Sundays are the best days to work in hospitality, because you get a lot of people from our world that come to dine. So you get to converse with them, you get to show your service. But it was a Sunday afternoon, 1 p.m., massive bouquet of flowers coming in, and I was in the reception thinking, I don't have any notes of some guests saying they're going to be delivering any bouquet here. So, and he's like, this flowers are for Rizwan. And I was like, who is so kind enough to send me flowers? I've never received flowers in my life.
Mm,
But yeah, it was a note from the guest saying, thank you for your support and for assisting us. We are all okay, and we look forward to seeing you soon, which I think touched my heart. And I was like,
yeah.
okay, this is the beauty, of hospitality for me. Yeah, for the guests to remember it was, I think, the best moment of my career. Like it became from scary to a career point, which I'm quite happy about it. I got to deal with. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was frightening. I could remember my heart was beating quite hard. When I was in that taxi leaving the restaurant going to the hospital. It was not beating that fast when I was coming back from the hospital. I was like, I have to deal with so much stress now. But it was fun.
Yeah.
It was all worth it.
I mean,
But
lessons everywhere, right? I mean, there's not many things that are more important than service, but human life is probably one of them, I would say. But also a lesson for your GM maybe in that moment as well is that make sure that you get the full story before you come
mm,
charging into the situation, and take a breath before because these are also quite important formative moments. You were still quite young at this point, right? In terms of still establishing your career, the last thing you
mm,
need if you're positive towards your career and and energetic towards that is, one, here's a situation that is taking me right outside my comfort zone. I've done the best that I can with my own life experience in terms of how I should deal with this. Could I have handled things better? Of course. Will I learn that for the next time? Of course, all of that.
mm,
But the last thing you need is somebody to stunt your enthusiasm
mhm.
in that moment because they were a man down for an hour or whatever it was. That kind of stuff happens. So, but yeah, great kind of demonstration of the sorts of stuff that just happens, right? I mean, that whereby and
It's just sitting around. It just happens.
yeah, and you and hospitality teaches you how to deal with these things. And I've
Mm,
said this before on the show. I could say, I mean, I'm thinking of somebody like the great Robin Shepherd, who we've had on this show, who president of Bespoke Hotels, an amazing story. And I've spoken to him about the fact that even somebody as experienced as him, who has done so many different things with his career to this point, could still walk into a hotel tomorrow and something will come up that he's never come across before, just because that's life and that's the stuff that you can't plan for.
indeed, indeed. I couldn't agree more to what you said.
Yeah, yeah.
And life just happens.
Yeah. Well, I'll come back to your original quote all the way back at the beginning. Isn't something that can be defined,
Hmm.
So, but yeah, there's also a story about a Valentine's Day dinner, which intrigued me. So yes, please do tell. I mean, we've just had Valentine's as well, so it's almost bang on point.
It's Valentine's. Like I had. quite a lot of stories in Valentine's Day. It's always amazing to see how things could, be so unpredictable and how things could work out at the end. But again, coming back to the early years of career when we had a very busy Valentine's night. I think Valentine's is a day where every restaurant is busy, and I think all the managers really hate working on Valentine's because it's only tables of two. So all the
Right,
five and
right.
six, you have to all make sure that you're giving it to twos. But I think it was just more like we were quite busy. There was a gentleman waiting for his date to arrive, and we are working on a 2 hours return time kind of policy. And and the lady comes in, and she's very late, and she was apologetic to the reception. We're like, no, no, it's fine. Glad you made it. So we escort her to a table, and the gentleman starts pointing in his watch, and you're like, you're late.
Oh God.
I think you can do that if you already know the person. If you went on few dates, makes sense. But if you do that to a first date, I don't think so. That's a good impression to
Yeah, I
start
don't.
with.
There's not going to be a second date, is there?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't think so. It was a first date because she came in, she sat down. The waiter came and did the water. She drank the water, and she was nice meeting you, and she just left. And the guy just, the guy just stood there looking like
Quite right
what,
too.
like embarrassed, and everybody in the dining room just witnessed this happening. I'm there trying to control my laughter. I'm there just feeling like what an embarrassing moment. It was not needed, and I think it was just very funny. And if I was in that guy's situation, I would be very embarrassed. I don't think so. I would be going in any Valentine and any dates, to be honest. I'll be just leaving it to the hands of the future because it,
No,
it was
complete.
it was just it just didn't make sense.
Yeah, very bold to do a first date on Valentine's Day as well. I mean, that sets the bar, right? Very early on, and he absolutely fell under the bar. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, superb. I just want to take you back to Cinnamon. We touched on this around GM at 21.
Hmm.
Quite a meteoric rise to that position. Obviously, they must have seen something in you to give you that responsibility. It's not something that they just you'll hand out willy-nilly to anyone. So, but I think that probably anyone who's gone on to anything can probably recount a moment whereby somebody's given you an opportunity that perhaps within yourself you're like, am I ready for this? I don't know if I am. But then talk to me about the kind of the pressure that comes on you in that moment as a 21-year-old when you've got to manage, as you said, people who are vastly more experienced in terms of what they've seen and done. How did you get around that?
I think it was one of those things where you're never prepared for, and it's you can go through the books and you can learn as much as you want, but when you're given in that situation, it's very different to what you can imagine. For me, I took it as how would I say it? It was an accomplishment, definitely. But for me, I was very scared. I can let you know. Still now, I was very nervous. How am I going to do it? Obviously, I had the support of my operations. I had the support of the management team leading. I had a very amazing team. The team plays a very important part in leading a restaurant. But it's just like yes, when you have a team which is filled with experienced people, sometimes delegating them or telling them what needs to be done could be very difficult because you do not want to sound arrogant when you do it. You do not want to sound too kind when you're doing it. You don't want to be too humble. You don't want to be too delegated. So I think there has to be a balance of how you can say things out. Like for me, when I was in cinema, I spent there 3 years, so I knew everyone. So there was a bit of compatibility with stuff. That could also be an issue later on because when you get promoted with that team that you see it as a family, people would not see you seriousness on that role. So for me, leading the team at Kanishka was fun, I would say, but it was difficult in the beginning because we had a lot of the waiters and the assistant managers who were not really happy to see somebody come in when they thought they deserved the role because
Yeah.
I think everybody goes through that. But I think it's just winning the team by being a good leader, but not just delegating, but also joining them in what they were doing. Because I was not that kind of a GM that would sit in the office of the half of the time. For me, I would step into service, help them achieve service. I would be clearing tables, I would be taking orders, I would be leading them, showing them, if I can do it, so can you. And During my breaks, I would be doing admin stuff. But I think it was one of those difficult moments where your work will and your work can only show why you got promoted and why the management thought you deserve this role. You can't waste your time just justifying yourself and giving solutions and giving points to others like why I deserve this role. It's about my work will show you, and if I can lead you and I can assist you, I want you as my team. There is no I in you, it's us. So I think that is the biggest, I think, the key that helps any manager achieve its goal. And somebody told me long time back, which is very true. A good example of a manager is when the restaurant can run and the team can run the restaurant without him or her or them being present there. It's a very golden word because if they're calling you for help, that means you're micromanaged, and you don't want to be micromanaging. And a lot of people need to understand this is very important because I used to do this as well. Micromanaging is one of the worst things you can do. You need to let people thrive in their departments so you can find them where they need help. If you'll be always doing things for them, or firstly you'll miss the amount of work that you've been given because you're just helping them, and the others they just start relying on you every time. So I think you need to give them those pressurized scenarios for them to outperform themselves, so you can have an amazing team that you can thrive. And from there you can learn the strengths and weaknesses. You can learn your strengths and weaknesses. And I think micromanagement needs to be something that needs to be really, really looked into in every manager's history of books. Because if you're still micromanaging, it's not a bad thing where people will are micromanaging. If it's a small restaurant, it makes sense. But when you go to big fields, it will stop you from elevating your next steps because you always micromanage. And you become a bit more, how would I say, rigid because you want to be part in everyone's story. Sometimes it's okay just to mind your own business and move forward.
Yeah. Superb. Look, this has been awesome, Rizwan. Thank you so much for your time. So many lessons in here, and just from somebody who is, I suppose, woken up and started pushing himself and look at what's possible. It's wonderful to hear that you guys are doing great as well. And I love some of your philosophies around life and leadership. And I think we could absolutely all take a leaf out of your book from that. So I wish you continued success. Keep on this wonderful trajectory that you're on. Who knows where it's going to take you? That's going to be probably a great joy to find out for you and for us. And wish you all the very best with the next chapter.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Phil. Thank you for having me in your podcast. And I think I had a lovely time, re-embracing and going through back in times. But yeah, I think it's an amazing world we live in, and we're part of hospitality, and we just need to make sure we're thriving and sharing the word out.
Here. Good man. Take care, and I shall see you soon.
Let me see you soon.
Cheers. And there we have it. I hope you enjoyed learning about Rizwan's rise within the restaurant sector. He's got some fantastic lessons and ideas for us all to utilise. A massive thank you to him for sharing. We will of course be back next Wednesday with another amazing story from hospitality, so until then, have an awesome week, and I'll see you then.